Yo, surprise, surprise. I know a lot of you did not expect this coming in. Um, I got some time to kill before another draft tonight, so bottom line is this. All right, hear me out on this. This is going to be another video I'm going to go straight through with, okay? So there is not going to be, at this point, I'm talking about this, at this point, I'm talking about that. I want you guys really, because if I did that, then you're only going to want to hear if it's your guy being talked about. Screw that. I want you to hear some opinions. Maybe you guys can start buying somebody. Bottom line, what this is these are my favorite late round guys that went in the draft that I feel like could make a difference for a lot of teams. Now, what I mean by this, now hear me out, is these are guys that I don't want to use the term league winning for your roster, but they are going to surprise a lot of people based on where they were taken for their ADP. Now, what that means also is there's a lot of guys that I felt like either fell in the draft or guys that were discounted in value that I believe can definitely surprise and outperform where their ADP was. So I'm not going to give you the generic basic BS fantasy football answer, but the first guy that I am, very high on this year, and I know health is a concern, but it's Will Fuller. Now, I know this is kind of like a Michael Fabiano take right now, but hear me out on this. Will Fuller went in the start of the seventh round, okay? Now, when Will Fuller was a rookie, he really wasn't that dominant. I think he had 3 good games and then fell off the rest of the season with Brock Osweiler. Since Will Fuller has had Deshaun Watson as his quarterback, listen to this stat. He's scored in every single game when he's played with a healthy Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's rookie year, Will Fuller was taken in the 5th round. You now had that discount 2 rounds later into the 7th round. The reason why I feel like this guy can definitely outperform his ADP is simply because the discounted price in the 7th round. Now, I'll be honest with you. I think Fuller could have fallen more into that mid to late 7th round if Kiki Kute was still healthy. But with Kute already banged up, Will Fuller is guaranteed money every time he's out on the field. Now, obviously, this guy has an injury history and he's probably not going to play a full 16. But if you want to play the what if game and it happens, man, then Johnny, you're looking pretty right now. But look, Will Fuller is absolute money. This is a must have guy. The reason why I feel like he is on my list right now, too, is because of his 7th round discount. Not only did you get a discounted price in that, but you already have a set roster already. You already have 6 guys. So if Will Fuller does get down at that price, he is very replaceable. Will Fuller is a very good building block for a fantasy roster. I'm not saying that you should buy Will Fuller, obviously, because of the injury risk, but this guy can definitely make a difference on a team. Again, this is only an argument because of his 7th round ADP. Next guy I want to talk about really quickly, guys, on this segment. The same reasoning for Will Fuller. This is a guy that can make a difference and does not cost you anything, especially if he gets hurt, number one, which is probably a guaranteed. But it is Sammy Watkins. Now, I know I am getting very kind of boring right now with these two guys, but I want to make a point right now. Sammy Watkins was taken in the 8th round of this fantasy football draft. Okay? In years past, Sammy Watkins, I think the highest he's been has been a late second, early 3rd round pick. All right? That's usually his average. His first year moving on from the Buffalo Bills to the Los Angeles Rams, I believe he was a 5th, 6th round pick. So that was the biggest discount you saw on Sammy Watkins. Last year, Coffeyville took him in the 6th round. Now, the injury bug is always going to be a risk with Sammy Watkins, but you now have a guy that plays with Pat Mahomes. Okay, that's a check. Who's the number 3 behind Kelsey passing option in the Kansas City Chiefs offense. And believe it or not, this guy has a weird split. Sammy Watkins did not score any touchdowns on the road, but he was a dominant effect at home. Sammy Watkins is a guy that you can plug and play as a wide receiver too and mix and match if you want to play the split game. Sammy Watkins, let's be honest, guys. Sammy Watkins literally has the easiest job on the Kansas City Chiefs. It's find a way to get open because you're not going to get double teamed. In fact, he finished off that playoff game against New England pretty strong. It looked like he had a little bit of a resurgence. I think that Sammy Watkins, nobody wants him, But David, knowing the man crush that he has on him, took him in the 8th round. Look, this is incredible value, and this is the guy that I'm not going to say we're going to say, oh man, I should have drafted Sammy Watkins, but you're going to have those weeks where you look at Sammy Watkins and you say to yourself, wow, how the hell did this guy fall to the 8th round? I believe that, like Will Fuller, having this guy discounted, his upside will never be what it was in Buffalo, okay? I'm not saying that, but when you play with Patrick Mahomes, you can have a very, very substantial floor. Got to be honest, without touchdowns, I think Watkins' floor is 7 to 9. And if you start him in those home games, he's going to have high teens in the points. Sammy Watkins is definitely a guy that people should be buying in fantasy football. Another guy that I think went very, very late and will certainly outproduce his ADP, and I can guarantee you this, by the season end, all right, by season's end, this guy next year, when we're looking at quarterbacks to rank, will be ranked inside the top 5 for quarterbacks. I know this is going to be a shock what I'm saying right now, but as far as fantasy, I love what I see out of Lamar Jackson. Listen to what I'm telling you guys right now. I think Lamar Jackson is a terrible quarterback, but when it comes to fantasy football, he is the definition of a cheat code. Let me say this. Lamar Jackson in games where he threw maybe like 10 times a game was still giving you a floor of 17 points because of his wheels. I don't care if this guy has developed into a passing quarterback. He's still going to run because it's in his nature to do so. Just like RG3, you can't take a guy and make him a pocket passer. His natural instinct is going to be to take off. I am not buying the coaching speak saying he's become a different passer. That's BS. What isn't BS is that this guy is going to start a full 16 games this season. And honestly, I think he's going to finish within my top 5 for fantasy quarterbacks. If there's one guy other than Pat Mahomes that I think has a substantial floor, it's Lamar Jackson and maybe Deshaun Watson. I think those 3 quarterbacks have your best floor. Look, this is a guy everybody I think slept on in the draft because he can't throw a pass. But last time I checked, he can still run. He can still run. I think Lamar Jackson definitely has league winning potential. And Rob Coffey found himself a value. Next on my list, a guy that I think is going to outperform ADP expectations is a guy that a lot of people didn't know what to think of based on the crowded backfield, but I'm going to put this guy on my list. It is Malcolm Brown. Now, look, I am one of the people out there in the fantasy industry who thinks that Todd Gurley is not going to hold up by season's end. I'm also a firm believer that the Rams are not going to fall off, meaning that they're not going to rely heavily on Todd Gurley. Now, let's talk about Sean McVay, all right? Sean McVay is like the opposite of Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll will tell you something and it comes true pretty much half of the time. Sean McVay tells you something and the opposite happens. All the things you heard in the playoffs last year was Gurley looks great. Gurley's going to be the guy, and it was all C.J. Anderson. I think the most Gurley touched in one game was maybe 10 times. I think this is going to be a season where Gurley has some games where he looks good, and then he's going to take a lot of series off. I think the main focus on the Rams is winning a Super Bowl championship, and having Todd Gurley go down is not what they want or that need to act up yet again. I think Todd Gurley by season's end will become an RB2. I think that he is actually going to perform like a boom or bust running back, and because of the knee injury. And I am not saying it's Darrell Henderson. Malcolm Brown, I believe, was taken in the 12th round of our draft. This is a guy, if Max is in the seller's market, buy him right now. I know we all want to get excited about these handcuff upside flyer guys because let's be honest, half of you, if not more than you, reached on a lot of these handcuff guys, and this guy was sitting there. This is one of my favorite upside stash guys. I know a lot of people in the community want to buy Darrell Henderson. I think Henderson is a guy that they use in space, and he's more explosive. I think Malcolm Brown is built to carry the load. To carry the load. This is a guy. Remember this. He was hurt when Gurley's knees started acting up. I guarantee you this right now. Malcolm Brown would have put as good as the numbers as C.J. Anderson, and his handcuff appeal, if he played last year, would have been around that Tony Pollard, Darwin Thompson range. Yes, I am telling you right now that Malcolm Brown will be fantasy relevant. He will actually finish as a boom or bust RB2. The only reason why I say boom or bust is because of Gurley's knees. It's going to be impossible to predict unless they say Gurley is sitting out. But if you have a roster construction with elite wide receivers and you need a plug-and-play running back, Malcolm Brown by, I'm going to say week 3, will become fantasy relevant. Another guy I'm going to talk about is actually two Max boys back to back. Now, this guy did not necessarily go late, but for a tight end, he did go later than what his ADP showed, and I think he's a fantastic pick. It's Jared Cook. Now, look, Jared Cook is like a fine wine, guys. Listen, he's getting better with age. When he was young and he had all that upside we jumped up and down for, he never lived up to those expectations, and rightfully so. You played for the Tennessee Titans, you played with Sam Bradford on the Rams. Okay, then where did you go? You went to the Green Bay Packers. Did you do anything there? No, not really, but you made a good catch against the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs, so you built some momentum. You went to Oakland and you had a career year with Derek Carr, man, and no help on the outside. I mean, this guy was doing work when people were double covering him because you had bums like Marcel Aitman and Seth Roberts in the starting lineup. Now he goes in probably the best situation he's ever had in his career, which is why they went out and they got him. Look, Jared Cook, I would not be at all shocked if he finished inside the top three for tight ends. Yes, I know a lot of people are big on Evan Ingram. I know a lot of people are big on Zach Ertz. There's some other tight ends I could go down: OJ Howard, Hunter Henry. Jared Cook, I believe, has a potential to lead the New Orleans Saints in receiving touchdowns. I honestly have him projected for 12 touchdowns. I think he could probably even go over that number. I'm going to go on with the list because I think this guy was, honestly, I was high on this guy, and I think I might have been passed out at this point in the draft. So whoever took him, you got lucky. The negative reports around this guy made his ADP go down a round and a half later than when he was supposed to go. The guy I'm talking about is Dante Pettis. I am a huge Dante Pettis believer. Marquise Goodwin does not have a very good route tree, okay? He runs a go route and he runs a drag route, okay? I think anybody with speed can run those two things. Dante Pettis is a fabulous, I'll say it again, he is a very underrated route runner. This is not a guy that is the way he produced last year, it almost looked like a deep threat stat line, but this guy is deadly off of slant routes. He's hard to bump. I've even heard a lot of people compare him to his route running ability, Keenan Allen. Now, for those of you who don't know, one guy that I urge you guys to check out because you know Nicky D is more film than he is stats. Check out Chris Harris Football, and he has a video that says his top 5 route runners in the NFL. Now, obviously, this is very opinionated. Dante Pettis is not in his top 5s, but he wants to break down some film on Dante Pettis. When you watch this guy on film, he's very, very good. Dante Pettis, I believe, will finish as a wide receiver too. Will crush that ADP where Harsh got. And in all honesty, Harsh, I'm looking at your team right now. He will outperform Christian Kirk. I know this air raid thing has the hype around Christian Kirk, but Dante Pettis, if Harsh isn't buying, I would hit him up right now and I would buy Dante Pettis. Another guy that I feel like can outperform ADP expectations, and I think a lot of people are on this guy. Granted, again, I'll reiterate the point. I was passed out, so I don't know what round this guy got taken in. But the guy I'm going to talk about now, there is an asterisk with this guy, is Justin Jackson. Okay, this guy got taken, my guess is going to be 9th, 10th round, but that could be wrong. And if it was later, you got yourself a steal. Listen to this. Doesn't look like Melvin Gordon is going to come to the Los Angeles Chargers. And in all honesty, Melvin Gordon not getting paid and having him come back for the next 6 games of the season, let's say the Chargers suck. Melvin Gordon doesn't have to do anything at that point. I don't care if he's losing money. I think Melvin Gordon, has a big pride and a big ego thing when holding out. He might just lose out. And I know, he's losing that. His agent's going to tell him that. But honestly, he might just not be into playing because he's like, why would I play for a team that doesn't want to sign me? You get my drift, guys. Now that's just me being very negative on the Melvin Gordon situation, but Austin Eckler, believe it or not, I do have big things for as well. But Justin Jackson and Austin Eckler, okay, listen up here because a lot of this will blow your mind with some stats. Justin Jackson and Austin Eckler will be a very good running 1-2 punch. Okay, I don't think any of these guys have RB1 potential, but they have a significant floor at the RB2 spot. I think Eckler has a safe floor of 8 to 10, whereas Justin Jackson, not really. He's more of that 7-point range. But what I like about Justin Jackson is that he is a better inside runner than Austin Eckler. Now, San Diego, when they go in shotgun, they run a lot of halfback base, halfback off tackle with Melvin Gordon. Austin Eckler has a tendency to really cut it out to the outside if there's a linebacker closing in, just because he doesn't gain a lot of yards after contact. When the reason why the analytics department likes Austin Ekeler, because I know you heard that weird stat that it was like before he took over for Gordon, he was averaging 7 yards a carry. Obviously, on limited touches, that's going to look good, but the reason being is because they ran him on toss plays. I don't have the number here, but the Chargers love to run their toss plays and watch, which is why Ekeler is so effective. But if Eckler's going to get these touches, his body is going to start to break down. You saw it last year in just his second or third start as the Chargers guy. Justin Jackson took over and was the guy, but here's another thing. Let's say that none of these guys get hurt. The Chargers dump off to their running backs early and often, even if they're trailing behind games. Guys, the last time the Chargers had a 1-2 punch, it was Danny Woodhead and Brandon Oliver. I'm not even going to throw the Melvin Gordon card. I had Brandon Oliver, Melvin Gordon's rookie year, when he got benched because he just wasn't picking up the system. When Danny Woodhead was averaging 15 to 17 a game, Brandon Oliver was firmly getting 8 to 10 points. Why? Because Rivers loves his running backs. Now, I know that suits more well for Austin Ekeler, but Justin Jackson is a guy that if it's not going to cost you anything, I would go out and buy, because I don't think Melvin Gordon's going to play for this team, and I think Justin Jackson could become a league winner. This one's going to shock a lot of people because this is just maybe Nicky being Nicky and being pretty biased because I do like this guy a lot. But when I watch fantasy analysts, film highlights, nobody seems to be talking about this guy in a negative way or a breakout candidate kind of way. The guy I'm touching on right now is Tyrell Williams. I actually do think that this guy can go back to his first official starting year as a San Diego Charger. Now, let's flash back a minute now. This was 3 years ago when Keenan Allen tore his ACL in Kansas City, and they needed somebody to step up. Tyrell Williams got the call, and he finished as a wide receiver too. Now, what went wrong after that? The Chargers invested in Mike Williams, so they had some draft capital, and they really wanted him to outproduce Tyrell Williams. Keenan Allen went back to being a ball hawk. Now, here's the thing. Yes, you have Antonio Brown on the other side, but I actually do think, with or without Antonio Brown, I think Tyrell Williams is a very good pick. Tyrell Williams, the one thing that he does very well is a post and a drag. Derek Carr, he's very cautious when he goes deep, but he likes the short intermediate routes. I actually feel like that Tyrell Williams can be probably, this is a very bold statement, but I do feel like that he is going to have games where he leads the Raiders in catches. I just like the setup. I really do. I know they're big on Hunter Renfrow as a slot receiver. I know they're very big on Darren Waller at the tight end position, and we haven't seen a lot of Tyrell Williams yet. But look, this guy is very, very talented. If there is somebody in need of a wide receiver, I would definitely buy it because, nobody seems to like this guy. I do. Another guy that's on my list, and this will be my second to last one. This is a guy that I was thrilled to get in the draft considering the state of mind that I was in at this point. The guy I'm going to talk about is John Brown. Now, listen, John Brown showed flashes with Joe Flacco last year, and he looked like the John Brown of old. The only reason why his season ended up so badly was because Lamar Jackson can't throw a football. John Brown is one of the best deep threat receivers we have in the National Football League. He hasn't lost a step at all. It just sucks that Lamar Jackson was his quarterback. So now he goes from one deep threat or one guy who can launch to another guy in Josh Allen. What's even better in this situation than it was with Joe Flacco is that Josh Allen has time to extend plays, which means he can wait until he gets into his second, third stride downfield and just throw a bomb to John Brown. I think we are looking at, I don't want to say a massive breakout out of John Brown, but this guy is going to go back to those boom or bust weeks that he's always had as a receiver. This is the guy that, again, I have him. I'm not trying to sell him because I love him that much, but this is a guy that can certainly help a team that needs wide receiver depth. I love John Brown a lot this season. This guy is going to win some leagues. Last guy I'm going to break down is kind of a guy that is on my buy and sell list. So this is kind of a coin flip. And this is a guy that everybody wanted on their wish list. I'm going to talk about Darwin Thompson. Now, there's two sides to Darwin Thompson. You like him because of the. This is why people like him. Nobody has ever watched Darwin Thompson in college and said, "Oh, this is a good back." But you don't even need to watch him in college. The one check mark is the Andy Reid offense. Andy Reid makes scrubs into running back ones. That's just what he does. I mean, look at what Damian Williams was last year. Now, Damian Williams obviously has the full playbook written down, and he's still going to be the guy. But if there was to be something wrong with Damian Williams, I guess this guy would have the next man up mentality. I think the only other guy he would have to beat out is Darrell Williams. Now, Darwin Thompson does not have, an electric burst of speed, but he's quick and he makes people miss. Now, even if you look at his metrics and his combine scouting reports and yada yada this and yada yada that, one thing is, bro, Andy Reid has never failed to produce an RB1 in certain weeks. That's just what it is. Now this guy obviously has a lot of potential, so that's why I'm highlighting him here. I hope you guys liked it. I know this was a little bit different. Hope you guys enjoyed. All right, so now that I'm at it now, guys that I'm buying in the fantasy football season was the first one. And when I'm saying buying, it's guys that I believe that went late that can outproduce their expectations. Now let's do the other thing. These are guys that I'm selling based on a numerous amount of factors. Where they were taken in ADP, or the hype that's buzzing around them that I think that the hype is getting out of control where you just got to go on and say, hey, now's the time to flip them. And here's the first one, which is the most obvious one. It's Tony Pollard. Listen up, okay? You can say what you want. Dallas's line, this is the next guy up, next man up. Dallas's line this, Dallas's line that. But my thing is this: if there's a need where you need at your team, okay, now only if it's running back, then you keep him. But if you need another position somewhere else, or you want to cash in on it, I would cash in on this now because of two factors. Number one, with the Zeke news and everything like that, his hype has now pushed him into an automatic RB1 based on hype. Okay, I fully understand that point. The other thing I'm going to say is if you hold on to him and he produces and then you get news mid-season that Zeke is coming back, nobody's going to buy him. So I think that you should capitalize on this now. Now, Tony Pollard is a rookie, okay? He probably could do well in Dallas, but I'd rather probably trade him for something else. That's just my opinion. I keep going with the flavor of guys that we should sell. This one's pretty obvious. The talent of this guy is spectacular, but there's no way this guy's playing a full 16. The guy I'm talking about is Darius Geis. Hear me out on this. Look, Darius Geis, unless he's playing in this preseason game coming up, which I highly doubt that he is finally healthy. He looked good, and he had a touchdown called back due to holding. So the thing is this: once this man goes down, the most he's going to see is a committee because they want to protect their he's not even their franchise, but this is the guy they spent a lot of draft capital on. He is an explosive runner. He is a dangerous runner. I last year before he got hurt, I wanted to trade up in the draft to grab this guy because I thought that maybe this guy could become an RB1. Look, bottom line is this. This guy has had so many surgeries on the same ACL he tore last season. Something's wrong with his bones. That's all I'm saying. You have a Redskin fan in our league. You need to capitalize on it ASAP. Another guy I'm going to put on the selling list is a guy that I wasn't big on in my draft rankings, but it's Calvin Ridley. I honestly see the same thing happening with Calvin Ridley like we saw last year. There's going to be maybe two, albeit maybe three games where this guy absolutely explodes. But he already had a hamstring pull early on in training camp, and he wasn't even on the field. I could honestly see Calvin Ridley being a decoy in a lot of games. Um, I just think that I wouldn't sell him now, but the game where he blows the fuck up, sell him because you could definitely make a profit off of it. Okay, this is a guy that, albeit a month ago, maybe I was very high on this guy. And then I did some more research and the situation that he's put in. This guy is probably one of my ultimate sells, and I know there could be other guys that could be on this list, but it's Kerryon Johnson. All right, this guy to me, I love his talent. You look on film, he's DeMarco Murray Jr., and that bodes well for the guy. And yes, health is a concern with this guy, but I am still firmly under the belief that this is going to be a committee. Kerryon Johnson might have some of his games, but I would not be at all shocked if you looked in that box score and you saw Kerryon Johnson 14 carries, C.J. Anderson 7 carries, Ty Johnson 1 carry. But then you look in the receiving department, Kerryon Johnson 2 catches, 14 yards, Ty Johnson 5 catches, 47 yards. I just feel like Matt Patricia being not a great coach, number one, and having his guys fill in every single situation. You're going to see CJ Anderson at the goal line. You're going to have Kerryon Johnson be the de facto lead back. But I believe once they're trailing big time, I think Ty Johnson becomes Theo Riddick Jr., pretty much. That's what I see happening. I think that they wanted to get rid of Theo Riddick, and they have a more explosive version of him now in Ty Johnson. I'm not saying Ty Johnson is fantasy worthy. I'm not saying that. Well, CJ Anderson does if Kerryon gets hurt. I just see a lot of dud performances out of Kerryon. Um, the only way I think you like him is if he has that guaranteed workload. But at this point, I don't see that happening. Going back off of the Calvin Ridley argument, this is a guy I'm selling based on his boomer bust performance. It's T.Y. Hilton. He's going to be a lot harder to sell now. Now, obviously, I wouldn't trade him for a bag of donuts. You know what I'm saying? But Hilton with Brissett obviously is a major downgrade to his situation. But I do think that there might be some games in there where you have an opportunity to sell him. I'm not confident in this Colts offense. I think Brissett's favorite target, like when he used to start, was Jack Doyle. I don't think that Jack Doyle will become his favorite target again. Now their offensive line is a lot better. But Brissett to me is a game manager who only wants to take risks when he has to. And T.Y. Hilton makes his money going deep for the ball in the slot. That's just my personal opinion on T.Y. Hilton. The only thing I could think of T.Y. Hilton actually being a little bit different is if they use him more in a possession role now with Jacoby Brissett rather than a deep slot guy like he did with Luck. And that would be interesting. But I don't think because of his frame that they want him running routes over the middle constantly. Just a theory. Other guys that I'm selling, and now this guy has been on everybody's bust list, or if you took this guy, you had to get his handcuff because the handcuff is so much better than the lead back. The guy I'm talking about is Tevin Coleman. I think the only thing that bodes very well for Tevin Coleman is the fact that you have the Kyle Shanahan sticker attached to him. Now, my theory here. Now, I am not Rob Coffey. I did not draft Rob Coffey's team. The fact that he went Coleman in the 5th and immediately after went Breida in the 6th shows me he's nervous about Tevin Coleman sustaining health or just not being that good, but he wanted the better back early on, which was Matt Breida. There was another draft where I saw Breida go in the 6th before Tevin Coleman because a lot of people the problem with Tevin Coleman is he's a boomer bust RB2. There's going to be games where he only gets you 5 points, and then you might get a 20-point performance because the blocking was there, and boom, he took it to the house. That's what you love about Tevin Coleman. But I just feel like with Matt Breida, okay, who's a more superior back than Tevin Coleman, the guy had 5.3 yards a carry last year. Coleman's never even came close to that in his entire career. Look, Tevin Coleman is not going to see 15 to 20 touches a game. If he does, he's going to get scaled back because he's going to be ineffective. Tevin Coleman is a guy who needs to be sporadically used. Look at what happened last year in Atlanta when he became the guy because Freeman went down. I remember maybe 3 games. The Redskins game, and I think Maybe the Bengals game he did okay in. The only thing I remember him being amazing in was the Redskins game, and after that, you got low-level RB3 performances. Tevin Coleman is a guy. If I'm Rob Coffey right now, I say let me stick with Breida. I gotta sell Tevin Coleman. This guy wasn't drafted high, so if he doesn't pan out, who cares? You'll drop him and whatever. But I think one of the biggest debates is who's the wide receiver 2 for the Green Bay Packers, and I'd choose the side of MVS over Geronimo Allison. I think it points out flaws in both Allison and MVS. The flaw it says to me on MVS is that MVS is not suited to be a slot receiver because he does not have good choice routes and he can't, play an option route over the middle of the field when Rodgers gets, scrambles out of the pocket and he needs to do something to find a way to get open. But MVS is superior speed athlete and he's better off of press coverage. That's what MVS does very well. He does it so much better than Geronimo Allison by default. Geronimo Allison now has to play slot receiver position. The only times I think you'll ever see Geronimo Allison on the outside is if Devontae Adams shifts into the slot because they do move him around a few places. But Aaron Rodgers does not throw to the middle of the field because he's a show-off type of a quarterback. But if I'm not saying you're gonna nobody's gonna trade for Geronimo Allison, but I'm just selling him just because I like MVS better. To make it seem like I'm not being that much of a you know what. But look, I'm just stating my opinion here. I'll pick a guy that I'm selling on my team because he's probably going to get cut anyway. It's Eric Ebron. We knew regression was coming because Doyle is back and he caught 13 touchdowns last year. It's not going to happen again, especially with Jacoby Brissett. So I'm going to sell him. Get it? All right. Okay, last guy I'm going to put on the sell list. Now, he was a very good value in the draft. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was 8th round, which is spectacular. But the guy I'm selling is AJ Green. I've never been a big AJ Green guy for fantasy because his price was always in that first to second round range. And because of an injury this year, plummeted all the way down into the 8th round where Johnny took him at a tremendous value. But once reports come out and say, hey, man, this guy looks awesome. He looks like his old self. That's the time to pounce because I don't see him playing a full 16 games. If you could even get, honestly, this might sound a little bit crazy because I am very down on AJ Green. If you could even get just a Flory RB2 or an upside handcuff guy, not to your back, but a guy that you feel like could be a league winner or you see a trend happening, I would do that. I legit would do that. If we find out that Gurley's knees aren't holding up, okay, and he's getting scaled back time and time again, and you're happy, you have to be happy with the receiver situation. Yes, this sounds like a really, really ballsy move. Obviously, something would have to be thrown into it, but I would do another piece in Malcolm Brown for AJ Green just because I know for a fact this guy's not going to play a full 16, and his numbers have decreased every single year. AJ Green. So there you have it.